Welcome to another Innovation Coffee. Today it's Innovation Coffee Christmas special with Pine64. I'm really excited. I mean, I'm actually excited and sad at the same time because this is our last episode of the year. 2020 has been amazing. I mean, in some ways it's been, an awful year, but in some other ways we've done how many episodes? I don't even know now, but it's been a long journey. I'm excited to be here with you, Robert, again.
Gosh, I think I'm very excited as well. I think we're on episode 17 or 18 since we did the official ARM software developer launch. So very exciting. And I mean, I think it's just a perfect way to end the year with our guests that we have today. So this is very exciting.
Yeah, we've got 3 guests. And I mean, should we tell everyone we've got actually some presents today? I mean, it's Christmas, right? So we couldn't do a Christmas special without giving presents to our viewers, right? So we've got a lot of people on already, and for the ones that are not on yet, you should be on this. There's going to be presents, so we're giving out some stuff at the end. Watch out. We'll tell you more in a little bit. But Robert, before doing that, should we go back and do a recap about last week's episode?
Absolutely. Thank you, Alessandro. Yeah. So last week was kind of a prelude to this week's episode, surprisingly enough. We talked about ARM workstations, and this is, of course, available on the ARM Software Developer YouTube channel. You can go check out the Innovation Coffee playlist. We met with one of our guests who we brought back this week, Matthew Petry. We also talked with John Nettleton from Solid Run and Rick 96 or Sahaj Sarup from 96 Boards at Lenaro. It was a really fun episode. We got to hear about ARM workstations, different hardware that you can use, why ARM workstations are important for the ARM on ARM development, et cetera, et cetera. Once again, I'm not going to spoil it for you. If you have an extra hour in your day, I definitely recommend going back and checking that episode out. It's a good introduction to this episode. So very excited today. Special brew. I have my special brew in my AWS Community Builder mug. Cheers, Alessandro.
Cheers, I've got a Christmas one.
I put up a stocking for you. Look, a digital stocking.
Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, very exciting today, meeting with the folks from Pine64 and our special guest who we will introduce in just a moment as well. So let's bring them in.
Let's bring them in.
All right, great.
Who should we bring in first?
Let's do Lucas.
Lucas.
Yes.
You're up. Hey, Lucas.
Hey, guys. How's
Hi,
everyone?
Lucas. Good.
I got a
Thank
Christmas
you.
tree as well, so I see I fit nicely into the Christmas theme going.
Very nice. So, Lucas, community manager, Pine64. That's you. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself before we dive into the episode? We kind of like the whole origin story segment here.
Yeah, so I joined Pine64 in terms of the project in 2016 after the Kickstarter campaign. And at that point, we had a sort of a change of vision how we want Pine64 to be and function, and what sort of role we want the community to play in Pine64. And I was brought on to sort of build the community, manage the community, and have an active outreach to ARM developers, to bring them in and to reach out to established projects, to bring them into the fold and have them develop for our platforms. And the idea was that we would create hardware by asking them what sort of stuff do they want to see from us, having an open dialogue, in fact, a public dialogue about our development process, so that people who will be the end users and developers of the products would feel as much a part of this product as us, or as it's our product as much as it is theirs. So yeah, that's my origin story. And if you have read anything from our update blogs, our monthly update blogs, or have read any news, then it has probably been written by me in all likelihood.
That's awesome. I actually have a lot of questions for you about your monthly update blogs, and we'll get to that later on in the episode. So yeah, thank you, Lucas. How about...
It's time for another guest, right?
Yeah. So Matthew Petry, who is a return guest from last week, community developer for Pine64. Welcome.
Hello. Happy to be here again for the second time in as many weeks.
Yeah. So you know what to do.
Oh no, we lost Matthew.
All right, that's fine.
he
That's
did. I guess he did his origin story last week, right? We
Yeah,
could just
so we
move on
know
to
all about him.
Yeah, we know all about him. I mean, we'll give him a chance to do that later.
Yeah.
Shall we bring in Philip then?
I like that idea. So Philip is the co-founder, one of the co-founders for Manjaro, and you'll also get to hear a lot about Manjaro around the Pine64 ecosystem. Philip, please, if you wouldn't mind, we'd love to hear a little bit about yourself.
Well, we founded Manjaro 2011, so we are almost we are almost 10 years now, and next year we have the 10 years anniversary. We were 3 people around near Munich's area and started it, and now since 2019 we are a company now. So a lot of things happened, and about 4 years ago we included the ARM architecture as well.
I like that. So I'm actually very excited to hear more about Manjaro, the choices that were made, the collaboration, I would say intense collaboration between Pine64 and Manjaro. So I'm very glad to have you on the call. Thank you for taking the time.
No problem at all.
So we'll see if Matthew joins. He actually dropped, so it looks like he might be refreshing his computer. But Alessandro, should we move on then into this for a quick second? What we have to do, because we did schedule the tweet to go out at 10:05 Pacific, the giveaway, right? Should I explain that real quick before we just move on, Alessandro? Is that okay?
Yeah, I think we should tell everyone about how they can actually get the giveaway, right? So yeah, Robert, go ahead.
Okay, awesome. So we have several awesome prizes thanks to Pine64. And also, of course, in collaboration with the ARM software developer ecosystem here, there are going to be some cool stuff given away at the end of the episode. So what I would recommend doing is heading on over to the ARM software developer Twitter channel. So at ARM software developer, Alessandro is going to get that link shared in the YouTube channel. We have a tweet that just went out. What I need you to do is go into that tweet, comment hashtag Pine64 Innovation Coffee, all in a single hashtag Pine64 Innovation Coffee. That's going to enter you in to a prize pool that we will raffle off at the end of the episode. So we're going to put you on a nice colorful wheel that spins. And if your Twitter handle pops up, make sure that you're here on the call to claim your prize. So we'll spin it. Who knows how many times, we'll see, but we'll spin it a bunch of times. And the people who are chosen from that tweet, will have an opportunity at claiming a really cool Pine64 prize, maybe a stocking stuffer. Oh. All right, cool. So check that out. We'll share those links. You'll see them popping up throughout the episode.
Yeah, and should we say what the hashtag is again, Robert? And I'll also put it on the chat.
Yeah, so the hashtag is hashtag Pine64 Innovation Coffee. And if you get close to that, well, it'll be fine. As long as you get close to hashtag Pine64 Innovation Coffee, you should be fine. Perfect.
Awesome. And I see already there's a bunch of people talking about Manjaro. Philip, you're going to be popular on this show. We already have at least 3 people asking about Manjaro, or excited about Manjaro, I should say.
Okay, it's good to hear that.
Awesome. So first question that I have, and I'm going to pull up my little list here. I'd like to kind of start talking to you, Lucas. You're leading this Pine64 community. You're doing so many amazing things. And first off, I'd like to just kind of get my grounding with the community. So what is the Pine64 community? How are people getting involved in it? What kind of stuff are you doing to keep people up to date? And you mentioned this, monthly update letter. Could you kind of just walk us through community manager perspective of how this community functions and where people can get updates and participate?
Sure. So in terms of participation platforms, we have a extensive set of protocols and chat protocols, as well as a forum and an official subreddit. So there are plenty of places to get involved directly with talking to us. And in terms of who participates, well, we have both regular end users who participate. We have volunteer developers who join in because they like our products and they help out. We have people like Philip who are representatives, in a sense, of other projects who we have established a working relationship with. And then, in a sense, there are many unsung heroes of the project. These are low-level developers, um, people who do a lot of the legwork, so that later big projects like Manjaro, or you have UbiPorts, or you have Mobian, you have a vast number of different projects that participate with Pine64 that rely on their work. So I try to give credit to these people who do, a lot of the low-level kernel development on a regular basis in the monthly update blogs. So on our website, pine64.org, which is the community website, we have a monthly update blog, or the blog serves other purposes rather than, apart from just having updates. But once every month on the 15th, we have a community update where I do two things. On the one hand, I tell people about what has happened in the community and in terms of development for the past 30 days or so. And on the other hand, I give them insight into where we're heading, what is our thinking at this time, what is it that we are doing, and inviting them to participate. Now, when I say that it's a community website, I mean that quite literally. So if there's anyone who wants to volunteer their time and write something for the blog, to whatever it may be related to our devices or any of things they do with any of our partner projects, they're more than welcome to do so. They will be given a permission to write an article for the blog. So there's a lot that happens, and the other function which I serve, in a sense, is to facilitate communications between us as a project and other projects. So I am the person who talks to Phil's developers, and as well as to all the other people, including regular end users, many of whom have my private email and can reach out to me every single day of the week in the chat.
I think I bother you too much on there.
Oh, not at all. Not at all.
You are, I mean, true to your word, you are very responsive. I mean, I respect you a whole bunch because you manage a huge community. You have a great Discord server. I mean, I look up to your Discord server in a lot of ways in how we manage the developer ecosystem server. So, I mean, you do a really great job, and your monthly updates are amazing. I want to share that one. So this month's update here, December update, the longest one yet. There is a too long didn't read section there that takes up quite the area. So kudos, that's awesome. You do a great job, and you do release them every 15th of every month, like on point. On point. So on that note, oh, sorry, please.
Can I jump in, Robert? No, I just wanted to ask Lucas. I wanted to ask you like a question about, I'm a big fan of like getting people together and getting them to work on a project or getting them to collaborate, right? I think I'm a big I'm a big believer in communities kind of building the next big thing, right? Like I think I'd like to think that there's a lot of innovation that can come out of communities, right? So I'd like to kind of get from you an insight on a big challenge that you faced in like kind of getting people to work together and how you solved it, right? Like what is something that we should all be aware about when we try to work together as a community?
Oof. Okay. I will have to sit and think on this one for a minute before answering it. There have been many obstacles which we have encountered. I don't think there has ever been anything particularly critical. From our perspective, I think if you look back at some of our less popular devices or single board computers, you'll find that those that are less popular suffer from either a particularly unpopular SoC being used and people just not taking to it, or a failure on our part to engage people in the process of creating the device. So I don't know if there has been any problem that stemmed from the community not willing to engage. If anything, it has always been, in a sense, our fault in not doing enough to have people on board from day one and say, okay, so we're thinking about doing this. What do you think? What do you think? What is your perspective? What would you like us to do with it? There have been a device or two which we did on our own, and then they turned out that there is less interest in it than we thought. We don't do this anymore, but this has happened in the past.
That's a really interesting point. I think, I've heard that before. In open source, what's really key is to not build something and then go to the community and say, look what I've built, contribute, but actually build it together, right? I think that's one thing that you're doing really well. So yeah, no, I actually second that. I think it's a great point. No, thank you for raising that. Appreciate it.
Awesome. So let's shift focus to Pine64 and Manjaro, because we have Philip here, one of the co-founders. You guys go way back, from my understanding, back since I believe the origins, and you have formed a pretty solid relationship between Pine64 and Manjaro. I'm curious to hear a little bit more about this relationship. How Manjaro has contributed to the Pine64 community, what Manjaro is doing, possibly things in the future, things that are happening now. And then, of course, if there are any questions about Manjaro in the chat, we'll, of course, take those as well. But maybe going to you, start with you, Lucas, maybe, or Philip, whatever you'd like to start with here. I just kind of want to hear about the relationship that you guys have formed and how it's become just so strong here. Because Manjaro's on everything Pine64, right?
Yes, so I'll let Philip just talk in a moment all about it. But I'll say that, we are very grateful to Manjaro, because when we initially met, and we met in 2017, correct? Yeah,
something like that. 2 years in Boston. Yes, you got sick, and we stepped in and saved your day.
That's right. That's right. And they stepped in and saved the day, because I was very sick at FOSDEM, and everybody who has ever attended FOSDEM knows that this is something that happens to everyone regularly. But Manjaro was already then a very well-established project, while we were known in relatively niche circles. And from the very moment, they offered support and help, and were very interested in what we were doing. So this is my contribution. I'll let Philip kind of take it further. But it was an initial instant click, because here is a very, very small up and coming hardware project, and obviously Manjaro, a very big established project at that point in time already.
So yes, you got sick on FOSDEM, and TL, which is the founder of Pine64, was alone in the booth, and Manjaro waltzed in with 4 guys, and we said, okay, let's make it to the Manjaro Pine64 store. We sticked every sticker we had on the devices, and give TL a sticker, and he gave the Pine64 stickers, and then we went on and promoted everything out of the devices, and UBports developer joined in, and then everybody in the community did as a community the stand, and explained everybody else who didn't know about Pine64 what it is, which devices they have, and from there on we did more and became the stock OS on all the devices so far.
So looking at Manjaro, I mean, I'm always curious here, because, enablement, I've talked to a lot of people who work with distributions, from Fedora, Debian, all around the board, Ubuntu. How important was it when you see the PineBooks, running the RK3399, you see the different chipsets that are being used around other developer boards? How difficult was it, and how important is it for chips to be upstream for OS enablement? I kind of want to know what your process was. Was it difficult getting Manjaro enabled across all these devices, or did you just kind of walk in and say, oh, this was easy, I'm glad Pine64 chose these chipsets?
It always, like you have the community and developers doing it, so it's across Debian developers, Fedora developers, or a bunch, also Manjaro developers. We had 2 people called Tobias and Tobias, so they did 2 Tobias, and they did a really good work on the kernel for the PineBook Pro. And all this collaboration from the community enables Pine64 to roll out the hardware like the PineBook Pro or the PinePhone really fast with a really low cost spectrum. And since we are multiverse, we have almost every desktop environment on Manjaro on the x64 side. We also ported to the ARM side with the help of ArchArm, of course. We are so flexible to can simply use an ARM device, get the hardware, and try to figure out which patches are needed to get it run. And then from there, if the device is popular, as the PineBook Pro and the PinePhone, we will commit more time and more developers to it to get it working more stable and get faster updates. So yeah, it is how popular the products are in the end for the end user as well.
I think the Pine64 in general, I mean, all their products, they fly right off the shelves. You can almost kind of never get your hands on one, quite literally. I want to bring Matthew in here because Matthew, I would imagine that you started off as a community member, just someone who saw these devices and said, give me one of those, I want to try it out, right? Like I'm a developer and I want to try one of these out. But then you slowly transitioned as part of the community. So maybe you could tell us like what your first thoughts were when you tried one of these devices out and then moved into the developer community.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this a little bit last week, but I did start out like anyone else who first discovers Pine64. Like way back then, it was discovering the Kickstarter for the original A64 board. Have one right here. Being like, wow, it's this like I believe the original like tagline for it was the $15 supercomputer, and like kind of getting drawn in by that because at this point I'm like a 17-year-old kid or something, and at SBC for $15 sounds like a great deal to me. So I'm gonna have me one of those. And I eventually keep getting more and more sucked into the community because from the beginning it was already pretty friendly and helping with this thing or that thing until the point where here I am.
That's awesome.
Same sort of story as for Lucas, I believe.
Is the same story for you, Lucas?
Yeah, by and large. The story is such that, in a sense, the initial run during Kickstarter and representation of the original A64 Pine A64 board was such that while developers were really happy with it, end users were less than happy with it because they were expecting a different device. So I knew from the very kind of start how to communicate this. So the founder TLM, he met with me at one point in time. And he said, do you think you could take this further? And I said, yes. And I think I have a general idea of how to do it and how to not only shift the perception, which was initially established during the Kickstarter and right after, but also how to actually execute it. And kind of, it was a very natural, in a sense, transition.
I think that shows also the health of a community, right? If you've got community members that kind of join the community or kind of join the fold and become employees, it shows really how employees or official gain official titles. It shows really how people are invested in this and how much there is passion from all over, right? So it's a good statement of the health of your community. And I've seen Robert mentioned it earlier. It's really cool to see every time a new product comes out. A couple days later, you go on the website, it's just sold out or hard to get. And it's there is really always a lot of one thing you've done well always has been like to create these great products, but also like a lot of buzz around them, right? And it's quite interesting to see that involvement and that passion from the community, right? Because I think that's the big differentiator here for me, I think.
Yeah, I suppose that we were never particularly afraid to experiment with hardware, and there is a large, the thing that distinguishes Pine64 from a regular business of sorts is that we can permit ourselves to experiment because, in a sense, this is what brought us here in the first place. So experimentation and doing experimental devices, some of which are, would simply not be viable for a regular thinking company, such as the PinePhone, for instance, is something we're happy to do because ultimately what distinguishes us as a project is that the Pine Store, which is the official commercial body within Pine64, is there to serve as the community. So that is kind of the focus, and that's the purpose of the store, and there's no other purpose to the store apart from executing, in a sense, what the community dreams up together within reason. There's obviously bounds and boundaries to that.
Awesome. I think that ties well actually into all the stuff that Matthew has behind his back. I think we should, we talked about Pine64, but we haven't really showed the diversity. I think most people on the live stream actually know of Pine64 and know of like the great diversity that you have in your products. But actually, I think it's time to show it. So, yeah. Matthew, do you want to kind of give? We used to do this thing back in the day. It was called Innovation Coffee Cribs. So I think it's time for you to like show your crib and all the stuff that you got there.
All right. So I guess it's time for show and tell. So I already brought this thing up here for a second. This is the board that started off for Pine64. This is the Pine A64 board using the all-winner A64 SoC, which admittedly isn't the fastest thing in the world, but it is the reason this thing was originally able to be $15 at least for one specification of it. And that's what initially attracted so many people to this community. And also there's already kind of an existing community of people who were hacking on like all-winner powered Android tablets, for example, to bring mainline Linux and other amazing stuff to them. So we kind of got a jump start from them, I think. Basically, it was like, oh, here's this all-winner board that's cheap and fun to play with. And that kind of got the ball rolling there. Which led to, within the same ecosystem, the original PineBook, which is basically one of these inside obviously a laptop shell. I believe it was actually the first end-user device that Pine64 came out. Since then, we came up with several more, but I think this was actually the first one to the market. And like I said, it pretty much is same as one of these in here. And I believe from the start, developers were really excited for this thing because I think at this point, Chromebooks were already becoming a thing in terms of like ARM-powered laptops, but they are always locked down one way or another. So people are really excited to have a open ARM laptop like this at a really low price of like $99. So
I still can't believe that was $99.
Yeah, it's $99, and
yeah, I can't believe it. It's crazy. Get a laptop for $99. So that's the original Pine64. I'm sorry, the original PineBook, and then that evolved into the PineBook Pro, which changed chipsets, evolved, added more of everything. It seems, right? Do you have a PineBook Pro?
I do have a PineBook Pro,
right?
But first, like it was the same sort of sequence with this, where we started with an SBC, the Rock Pro 64. This is the Rockchip RK3399 SoC, which is a whole lot faster than the A64. It's a 6-core CPU, a whole lot faster GPU, it's like a whole lot nicer system in general. Have an SBC here that for a while I think was like the fastest single board computer that, or at least ARM-powered single board computer you could get below about $100. Like other ones have come and gone now, but for a while this was like the fanciest and nicest you could get within a certain price bracket. And the community grew around this thing on the new platform, moving from A64 to RK3399. And once people were comfortable with how to make this thing work, that's where what is many ways one of the, I think, 2 stars of the show here, the PineBook Pro, which is, again, just like the original PineBook is the A64 board in a laptop shell. This is the Rock Pro 64 in a laptop shell. And this is, unlike the PineBook, which is admittedly kind of like a developer tool for really getting into ARM development, this thing is actually usable for daily driver use. Like I know several people who use these as their daily and sometimes only computer. So sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say, I pulled out my PineBook Pro here, right? I mean, I'm excited. Thank you, Pine64, by the way. There's Lucas. I was very amazed about almost every single thing on this computer. I mean, it's solid. The display is great. It has a camera. The keyboard is not too squishy. It's kind of perfect. And I mean, for the price point, you just can't get better. It's running ARM. I have all my fingerprints back here, of course.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's an amazing laptop, and
Yeah.
I mean, especially like for the things that I use this for. So ever since I got this, for me, it's all been just command line GitHub stuff, right? So for command line stuff, it's just perfect. And running Manjaro, of course, you have to get used to the different package management system. But other than that, I mean, like once you start using, it's Pacman. Once you start using that, you get used to all of the different packages that way, and everything seems just great. One thing.
It's great for the developer stuff, and also I personally, during like most of this previous college semester just ended, I was bringing this thing to class with me for doing my studying, totally not just looking at like Reddit and stuff.
Yeah,
So yeah, definitely use it for schoolwork, and it's great for that too. Like I've seen a lot of people online complain that they're like, "Oh no, it has 4 gigabytes of RAM." Like they don't really understand when you're on an ARM platform like this how far 4 gigabytes of RAM goes. Like you think of like the really cheap like x86 laptops where 4 gigabytes is kind of like the bargain basement laptops where you can barely run Windows on them. Like no, in this case, this is a very usable machine. Like you can use the internet, you can compile things on it. Like you can get a lot done with 4 gigabytes of RAM on an ARM platform.
So one of the things I actually have a question, maybe Lucas can touch on this one, but I noticed that the charging port is still a barrel jack. I mean, my other laptops, for the most part, USB Type-C charging. I see that there is a USB-C here, and I haven't tried plugging power into it. Does it work for charging?
It works. It charges over USB-C just like any other modern laptop.
That's
barrel
amazing.
jack is there for people who just want to use the barrel jack, but I believe it charges just as fast over the USB-C.
Awesome. Yeah. So I didn't want to plug anything in there just yet, but that's good to know.
It does. It absolutely works. Please go ahead.
No, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. I wanted to bring up something. It's not really a question, but we have a bunch of comments on the chat that I wanted to bring up. So I think they're quite interesting. So James is saying, I can't wait to pick up a PineBook Pro when they're back in stock. And then it was Bruno is saying, I'm looking at a webpage every other day. And then JPix is saying, is that daily routine that you're doing? It's quite funny because I think, yeah.
Sorry. No, I was going to say that goes into Lucas's developer update for this month. And you did mention something about this. So I think that's a really good point. We talked about there's been lots of supply chain issues due to COVID, but I mean, that's obviously a really good excuse, right? I mean, anyone who says I can't even get a GPU right now. So I mean, from these huge companies, you can't get a GPU. Totally respectable excuse for not being able to get a PineSixty-4. But maybe you actually have an update on that.
Yeah. So to be very precise and specific, we do not have the LCD panels for the PineBook Pro. And what we do is we source our panels, as we do with all of our components, from reputable sources and sources which we have already a good working relationship with. So while it would technically and theoretically be possible to go out and probably pick up, a batch of LCDs from some vendor we do not know, it would be also extremely risky for us to do so, because you do not know what grade LCDs you're getting at that point. You get no insurance. The vendors we work with, they always give an insurance. So if the LCD doesn't work, the PineBook Pro goes back to the factory. We get we get an RMA from the manufacturer, which in turn we can later pay to return money to whoever was received the faulty unit. So at present, there are severe shortages, and there are shortages of everything, all sorts of electronics. This is a combination of factors, COVID certainly being one of them, or the main one, in fact. And right now, we don't know. We may be able to find a suitable vendor who will be able to sign us a contract next month, and then production will start. But to err on the side of caution, we said that right now, with the current situation, with the shortages, we're thinking that PineBook Pro production will resume after the Chinese New Year at some point, late February, early March. So you should expect and hope that that's the point where we're going to have the LCD panels in store.
I think we should take questions, Alessandro. I see some popping up. You want to take the YouTube questions, because there's some for Philip there too, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say we should talk about Manjaro. I mean, we've kind of briefly mentioned it, but maybe we can start with the question actually about Manjaro, and then Philip, you can kind of dive into more of what Manjaro is and the beauties of Manjaro. So let me take this. Where is it? Here, yeah. So James is asking, is there any plans for a Manjaro build for PinePhone that uses a desktop environment like Mate or XFCE?
Well, the stock OS is KDE based, but we have also made an XFCE in the repository. I'm sure we can spin a new ISO and image for the
PineBook PinePhone
Pro or the original one to have that as well. But for the PinePhone, not, because the PinePhone itself is special. You can only have Lumiri, KDE, and Phosh on it. It might be feasible to do it for the desktop if you use the phone as your only computer in the pocket. Maybe, yes, you can install XFCE and Mate additionally, but from the original idea, we don't ship it by default. It can be installed through the repository very easily additionally, but only if you use it as a computer, not as a phone. Sure, there are some people doing XFCE as a phone-based UI, but you don't have the dialer, you don't have the phone functionality there. It is more like a touch device in small screen size. So it's better to use the operating UIs for smartphone usage instead of poor desktop UIs. So maybe in the future someone comes up with some plugin for XFCE, then it's possible to do so. But as of now, we concentrate more or less on Plasma Mobile and the Phosh.
Hopefully that answers your question, James. So there's another one that popped up here. This was kind of along the lines of the barrel jack and the USB Type-C. Taya says, "Oh, how sensible. That's awesome." I remember watching a video from Sahaj Sarup, who is one of our ARM innovators. He received a PineBook 64. Thanks again. A PineBook Pro. Thank you, Pine64. But he mentioned about the display support over USB Type-C. And I believe in his video, he mentioned how it's not there yet. Is that still the case? Is that something that I maybe misheard?
Well, you can use a PinePhone via the dock. So you have to use speed check here. And on the other side, you have HDMI and USB ports, even a normal network. And with that additional dock, you can use it as a computer. So if you use the phone and plug it in, then it will be used as a computer. You can use here the devices and use the ports and have it as your computer in the pocket. Plug in your TV and keyboard or any monitor you have using HDMI, and off you go. The software can be switched. You can use it as a phone and open it up to use it then as a desktop environment. So yes, possible to do so.
Cool. I wanted to just jump in 1 second. Sorry, Lucas. I just wanted to say two things to everyone watching. So the first one is, if you've got any questions, we've got a lot of guests on. Feel free to post them in the chat, and we'll take them. Second thing is, for everyone that has joined now, we're giving out some cool hardware at the end of this. So be sure to go on Twitter and retweet, or actually not retweet, sorry, add a hashtag to our tweet. Robert, you could put on the chat what people need to add. You'll enter for a chance to win a great prize for Christmas. So make sure to do that. And I guess Lucas, you wanted to say something. Sorry, I cut you before.
Yeah, so I wasn't quite clear whether that question was related to the PineBook Pro or whether it was related to the PinePhone. The answer for both is yes, it works if the question related to the PineBook Pro. Then there was a kernel error between kernel 5.8 and 5.10, I think, which prevented video output via HDMI to an external monitor, but that has recently been resolved, I think, just literally a week or two ago.
And I believe, to be clear, if you're talking about the PineBook Pro over the USB-C port, it can output the alt mode for a display port, while I believe for the PinePhone, it's HDMI. So whatever hub you're using may need to support one or the other, and if it only supports one, it needs to have internal circuitry to support the other.
So I think for the next call that we have Pine64 on, we need to do at least a screen share on a Pine64, on a PineBook Pro. I keep getting them all mixed up. So many Pine products.
Yeah, I'm like, I should have done that this time because you probably noticed that you lost me for 3 minutes because my desktop crashed on me. Admittedly, I'm guilty of running Windows 10 on it, which means the PineBook Pro has actually been more reliable than my desktop recently. So I should have been joining you all from it this time. My mistake.
But then you couldn't show it.
Yeah.
It's not like I don't already have plenty of other nice devices to show off that we can get to if we have time.
Well, so I do want to get to all of the devices. In fact, one of my questions here is literally, can you walk us through all the different Pine64 products, including accessories? Because Philip just pulled up this dock. Is that a Pine64 accessory? Because I know you've been building all sorts of cool stuff. I think people online, at least on Twitter, they see the PinePhone and they see the PineBook Pro. But you have so many cool things. So I mean, I guess let's take some time. Let's continue that show and tell, Matt.
Yeah, so starting off with that dock, or whatever you want to call it, it is sold by Pine64. If you go to pine64.com, you will find that dock for sale. There's also this other thing that I'm probably going to get the name wrong. I think it is the docking deck, isn't it, Lucas? Where it is something that is like a full-size device with a whole lot more peripherals that is meant for the PineBook Pro with many more ports on it for whatever you may need for being able to use it as, going back to last week, a workstation. So both of those are for sale if you go on to pine64.com. After continuing show and tell, let's see, what have I gone over? There's the A64, where it's the A64 SoC, 512, 1 or 2 gigabytes of RAM, depending on which version. There's also something that's a little more niche, but it's basically the same hardware, which is the SoPine and SoPine baseboard, where it is most of the hardware from the A64 board on a SODIMM card module. That's called a module. Like, this is really meant for like embedding into embedded devices, kind of like in the same nature as Raspberry Pi's compute modules, same exact sort of thing. And I believe that there actually have been commercial devices that have been using this. I can't remember names of them off the top of my head, but I know they're out there. Also comes with this nice little baseboard so that you can just plug this in here and develop for it just like you have one of these. At this point, it's basically the exact same device. There's also the, again, I mentioned the Rock Pro 64, where it's the RK3399, same as the PineBook Pro, with 2 or 4 gigabytes of RAM. Like, obviously, the 4 gigabyte one's a little bit more expensive. I believe the one I have is the 4 gigabyte version. With, has USB Type-C on it. I think this was the first device of ours to have USB-C. There's also the Rock 64, which is a step down, which is the Rockchip RK3328 SoC, which is more in line with the A64. So has a better GPU, a little bit faster clocked CPU cores. I don't have any of those with me because of an unfortunate accident involving mistaking 5 volts for 12.
It happens.
One of those.
It happens. Didn't make me any more happy, but it happens. So I can't show one of those, but those are also on the website.
Matthew, I wanted to pause 1 second. So you mentioned there's a lot of different boards, right? I'm curious. as to what is the kind of idea behind all these different boards? Like, do they have specific use cases? Like, did you guys, did the community build them with specific use case in mind, or did they come out just because you can? Like, what is the kind of idea behind all these different devices?
Kind of the philosophy that has ended up coming into this is when we start using an SoC, we release an SBC of whichever sort to actually get developers on board so they can get familiar with the hardware, how it works, how to program for it. And once programmers are familiar with it, we come up with the next step devices like the PineBook Pro, PineBook, the PinePhone that build on that same hardware once people are familiar with it, to actually bring it into something that's more applicable for end users or people who just don't want to use a single board computer for whatever reason. So by the time we get to these devices that are maybe not as hackable, for example, like they're still very hackable, but don't have all the ports on them, the software is a lot more mature, a lot less likely to crash, it's going to perform better. And that's kind of the sort of process we followed into, and it's a process I believe we're going to continue for future devices.
So do you, just to clarify then, do you build an SoC, or not an SoC, sorry, a board with a use case in mind, or do you build a board thinking, let's see what the community comes up with, and then, like you decide on, should I build a phone? Should we build a phone? Should we build a computer? What is the kind of process there?
It has kind of changed over time. Like originally it was just the A64 board because I guess TL had just seen a gap in the market for a really cheap, really powerful SBC like this. But over time it has kind of evolved into what I was just talking about, to the point where when new boards are being developed, they are being developed with eventually being used in a more advanced device soon after. Like I can't talk too much about that yet, but that is something that is coming. So yeah, at this point, these things are developed with future applications in mind. Sometimes those are in mind from us. Sometimes community members surprise us with what they have in mind, and sometimes we might reach out to them and make something a reality in production.
I think that's important. This is an important transition point, okay? Because talking about the future, right? And again, in Lucas's update, this December update, I noticed the mention of developer boards for the 3566 coming up. I'm very curious. How can people get a hand on these developer boards? Are they for sale? Can you sign up somewhere for early access? And of course, does this mean that we might be seeing a 3566 PineBook Pro in the future sometime? If you can't answer, that's okay. But I am curious to hear more about this developer board and how developers can get their hands on it.
So,
Right.
Lucas, did you want to handle this?
I think I'll take it.
Okay.
So I think that the answer is that, well, first of all, we don't know how we're going to handle the boards yet. We do not want these boards to get into the hands of regular end users because they won't be running any software when they arrive at your doorstep. So whether we're going to have some sort of sign-up system or some sort of pre-order system where we make it completely clear to the person purchasing the single board computer that when they get it, that they need to start contributing to making Linux run on it from the ground up. We haven't figured that out yet. Also, about the RK3566, this will be used in the future, in some relatively distant future. It will be used for non-pro devices. So if it will find its way into anything, it will be in a regular PineBook or whatever else may come. But we have something else in mind for pro grade devices, something which we are not talking about at this point in time.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the information. And I guess the best way to make sure you are in tune with what's happening is to make sure you check up on Lucas's monthly updates, because I'm sure you'll keep us updated there.
Correct. We are fairly active, and we have a presence on both Twitter and Mastodon. And for the explicit purpose of keeping people informed, we also have a dedicated Telegram news channel, which is in the chat. For those who don't know Telegram particularly well, it is basically a news stream. So when there's an interesting or important piece of information, it kind of pops up there. So if you want to keep up to date, that's also a very good source of information.
Oh my gosh, I just looked down at the clock and it's already 55 minutes past the hour. We have 5 minutes left. This is the quickest hour I've ever experienced so far on Innovation Coffee. I am just about done updating. I believe I have everyone's Twitter handles in the giveaway wheel. Alessandro, should we do the giveaway first, or should we have them do kind of like their shameless plugs first? What do you think?
I think we should give the giveaway. I think we should go with the giveaways. I think we should do that. So if you've got everything ready, Robert,
okay.
Should we have Lucas maybe talk about what we're giving away?
So on our end, we're giving away a total of 5 Rock 64s. And I understand that you still have one PineBook Pro, which you're giving away to somebody special.
Yes, so we're gonna
especially lucky.
Yeah, so I think what we're gonna do, since we did get enough entries, so we weren't sure how many entries we were gonna get. I think we just posted 26 giveaway entries. There are a total of 28 comments, okay, but some of them were duplicated. So right now I have 22 entries total. We can give away all of them. So 5 of the boards from Pine64, and then we also have one PineBook Pro, also donated from Pine64. And so we have a nice little way to give away some stuff here. So let me share my screen, and we will do the giveaway wheel. Now, the rules are, and sorry, if you comment on Twitter now, you're no longer on this list. I'm really sorry. There is one rule here. So I'm not sure how the shipping will work for you, Lucas, but for the PineBook Pro, we do have to, it's going to be shipped out of the US. So if there are any embargoed countries, unfortunately, we will have to discuss that because we won't be able to ship to those countries. So hopefully, and we'll do that on the 6th spin. So the first 5 spins are going to be the boards from Pine64, and the 6th spin will be the PineBook Pro, and it is an ANSI keyboard. All right, let's do the first spin, and then once we spin, we'll remove that person's name. 3, 2, 1. You hear the noises too, I'm told. All right, first one. Oh,
J Plexer. Is it?
Jay Plexer. Alessandro, are you okay writing these down? Can you handle writing them down?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So Jay Plexer is our first winner. Congratulations, Jay Plexer. Are you in the chat by chance? I'm hoping, worst case scenario, we don't give away all of them if people can't claim them. I really wanted people to be in the chats. I guess we'll just kind of go with this. Jay Plexer, congratulations. We'll go with the next one. I'm removing Jay Plexer now. Alessandro wrote that.
This was the board, right?
That was for a board. Yeah, a board.
Yeah. So while we do the next spin, Lucas, can you kind of comment on what the board is a bit more? You can get ready, Robert.
Right. So it is a small form factor. We call it a B form factor. So it is a credit card sized single board computer with a RK3328 SoC on it, and it comes in 3 variants in terms of memory, and I do not know which variant is going to be shipping, so apologies. Let that be a surprise to anyone who receives it. And cool. It is quite capable in terms of what you're capable of doing with it. So it will do nicely as a embedded device, a little home server. It has a USB 3 native, so you can also make a really nice NAS, home NAS using it, as well as there's a bunch of stuff, including you can make a Kodi media player and all sorts of entertaining things, play emulators on it. It handles good old games quite well. So a lot of fun to be had with the little board.
Very nice. Very
awesome.
Nice.
And Reflexer is on. Yes. Congratulations.
Claim.
So let's go for the second one then.
Next spin. Here we go. Clicky, clicky. This is exciting. I think you can set like the looseness of the wheel to go a little longer and kind of tease people. All right. Tradosorg. I hope I said that right. Tradosorg is our second winner. Tradosorg, if you could please post in the chat. Alessandro just took note. I'm removing you from the wheel for now. Congratulations, Tradosorg, for winning the second board. Bruno, yeah, you're in here potting. There you are right there. Let's see if you get one. All right, so this is our third spin of 6 spins, and we're going now. Parker Reed.
Ooh.
Parker Reed is our third winner. Removing Parker. Congratulations, Parker Reed. We're going to kind of go through these a little faster here. So now we have our fourth spin.
And if you're in
I wish
the
it would
chat,
make, like,
I mean,
clicking noises.
yeah,
Can you
we
hear
should
it
make
clicking
more
one?
noises in this. No, not really. So we got Tradosorg. Tradosorg, are you? I see a Helder Guerrero. Is that you? Because someone says yes, I am. And Parker Reed, are you in the chat? And we got the fourth one as well.
Marooned Anchor.
Maroon.
Yeah, I think Mandy's in the chat. Mandy Tax Candy. I saw her name on there. Cool. So Marooned Anchor. I can't see myself as well. Yeah. Okay, there's Parker Reed. So Parker Reed got his. Awesome. Now we just need, I guess, confirmation from Marooned Anchor and there you go. Tradosorg just confirmed as well. So we got Tradosorg. Awesome. Thank you for joining, Tradosorg, and thank you and congratulations on winning. Perfect. So I'm going to remove Marooned Anchor. We're just waiting for Marooned Anchor to confirm. This is our is this our fourth or fifth spin? Fifth spin?
This is our fifth.
Fifth spin. Okay, fifth spin. This is the last board. I think it's Coding Field. Mandy Hacks Candy, you almost got it. And I put Manny. Coding Field. There you go. Congratulations, Coding Field, for winning the 5th developer board. And I'm going to remove Coding Field. So this is for the big one. This is for the PineBook Pro. Actually, here, let me. It's right here. I have it in my hands. This is, again, like I mentioned, the ANSI keyboard. Has all the fixins. Also comes with the barrel jack charger for both US and EU adapter. And we are going to spin. Good luck, everyone. Here we go. Let me change this because it's supposed to be Mandy Hacks Candy. All right, cool. And we are going to give this to, oh my gosh. Oh, look at that. JD. Came so close. Sorry, Mandy. Gosh.
JD.
Okay. Shootamaker, I think. I hope I pronounced that right. Drum roll. Yes. So JD Shootamaker, congratulations. That is the Pine.
We should check.
Pro.
JD, are you in the chat? And are you from? Are you in the US?
Yeah, I think this should be something that we need to do here because the PineBook Pro is the big one. So maybe they should have to be in the chat, or else we spin again.
Yeah, I think exactly. I'm thinking like unless we've got someone in the US, we just spin again. And should we have everyone that's won something? If you guys could join afterwards the ARM software eco, I'll just post this here. That's the correct one, right, Robert?
I'm not sure actually. Is that for the Discord server?
Discord, yeah, because we can get the links.
We have this banner right here.
We've got the other one. Sorry, yeah, let's use the other one. So yeah, if you could all the winners, if you guys could join the Discord, and we'll have there is a PineSixty4 chat in there, Robert.
So JD Shootamaker is in the Netherlands. I'm not sure. I should be able to ship to the Netherlands. Gosh, I wish I could know off the top of my head.
I wish we had a post office that we could go to right now and ask.
Yeah. So let's just take it. JD Shootamaker, you have hung around. I'm going to do my best. I recommend please joining the Discord server so that we can get your address. This is we'll keep it very, very private, of course. But yeah, we'll get your address and I will go try to figure out how to ship it out to you. So congratulations. There you go. So I'm removing you from the list and we still have those people, but we don't have anything else to give away right now. But this is our first time testing this wheel. for Innovation Coffee. So we do have other stuff in the future that we will be giving away, including things like AWS credits and Raspberry Pis and Jetson Nanos and the Jetson Xaviers. There'll be lots of fun stuff to give away in the future. So make sure
Arduinos.
Arduinos. Yeah. Open MV cameras. Lots of cool stuff.
Yes. But I wanted to say, I mean, everybody should know that Robert did this on the fly. So you see all those names. He put them on while he was talking. I don't know how you did that, Robert, but you managed to do two things at once. They say that sometimes, like, people can't do that, but yeah, you just managed to do it. So congratulations.
Right. Cool.
But thank you guys. I mean, thank you, Pine64, for participating, and Philip, again, thank you as well. And guys, I mean, this wouldn't be possible without you giving this stuff to us. So I really appreciate your support.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So last thing we usually do, and I know we're a little bit over, is the shameless plug. So I don't know, Lucas, Philip, Matthew, do you have anyone or anywhere you would like to let our viewers, know about? Website, we can put it up in a banner or share it in the chat. You want to start with you, Lucas?
Oh, I suppose most people watching probably know where to find us, but if not, then at the Pine64 on Twitter, and pine64.org will direct you to wherever you need to go for your Pine64 information, news, and otherwise.
Perfect. So at Pine64, I think it's at Pine64.org, right?
On Twitter, it's at the Pine64. On Mastodon, it's just at Pine64. Then website pine64.org for the community side of things, and it's pine64.com. Or I think still technically store.pine64.org works for the actual store.
Awesome. And thank you very much. I want to echo what Alessandro said. Without you all here, thank you very much for joining us. What about you there, Philip? Did you have anything you'd like to share? Anything last words?
Well, we can find us also on Twitter. It's Manjaro Linux or Manjaro Arm. As a Linux Arm would be then the handle for the Arm devices. And everything else you can find on manjaro.org, including the products we have, the distributions, and every architecture we support is found there.
I like that. You have the two different ones, Manjaro Linux and then Manjaro Linux Arm.
Yeah.
So very cool. Yeah. So, I mean, you can just add ARM at the end. I'm gonna do it here real quick, but you can add ARM at the end, and there you have the Manjaro Linux Arm. Cool. All right. So thank you, Lucas, Philip, Matthew. It's a true pleasure having you all on here. Thank you for the donations of those boards. I'm sure our viewers appreciate that. Thank you, everyone on YouTube who are watching. Very grateful for you to spend your hour with us, and happy holidays.
Happy holidays to all.
Great. All right.
Yeah.
See you next time.
And
See,
one last plug. If you've got any projects ongoing, you can share them here. We're doing a roundup of the year, ARM projects, fun ARM projects that you've done throughout the year. So if you've got anything worth sharing, you can add your details here. It was a pleasure, guys. Thank you so much all for being on and watching, and thank you for our guests. Great guests, everyone.
Thank you. Take care. Have a nice day.
take care.